So why leave Israel? I'm sure you have family and friends. That must be tough to leave.
It's first of all, moving to anywhere that is not where you were born is hard. But we saw the opportunity, and the American dream is always out there. We started the company in Israel. The R&D center is still based there. We still have an office over there, but the market is here. And the U.S. economy, the U.S. real estate industry, the mortgage industry, it's unparalleled in any other place. So we understand that you want to work in real estate. Real estate, I always say, it's a handshaking business. You need to meet the people. You need to meet the realtor. You need to meet the banks. You need to be part of the market.
It's the biggest investment purchase most people will ever make in their life, right?
Exactly. And they want to trust you. We did it when we built a system. We thought, okay, let's automate everything. And then we saw that a client that bought $1 million house, he wants someone to speak with. Even if I can do everything online, he wants to meet someone at least over a Zoom when it was COVID, maybe sometimes now in physical events, because it's a big transaction.
Definitely. And I'm sure you'll talk about, but companies can leverage AI, but that is part of the company and not just the sole.
Exactly. That helps us do everything faster, smoother, give a better borrower experience. But eventually you want to understand the deal. As you said, it's big transactions. Sometimes it's $100,000 home, but we also finance $9.5 million house here in Florida for a client from Thailand in this case. He's buying it, we're going to hold it for a few years and then sell it. You're not going to buy it sight unseen, have a $9.5 million condo.
Yeah, you're telling me, so you went with the E-1 visa that's been around with Israel for many years. Recently, Israel and the U.S. ratified the treaty for the E-2 visa. But what was your decision, immigration journey going E-1 versus other options? Like I'm sure you could have done the O-1 visa or even the green card equivalent EB-1A. Why start with the E-1?
So when I started the process, I had no clue on which visa. I just knew that we need to open an office in the U.S. I knew that we already have an established entity in Israel. We already had an established entity in the U.S. because that's how we do business. Technology in Israel and the finance and the operations in the U.S. So when we reach out to our immigration attorney, say, what are my options? I need to move myself and my family to open an actual
And what time
office.
frame are we talking about?
It was 2020, starting 2021. The entire process was pretty quick. I think it was 3 to 4 months end to end to get the company approved and then myself. And then every time that I needed to move other employees, that was also great. As long as they're coming from Israel, or even if they have an Israeli passport, even if they're not living in Israel at the moment, I could transfer them to the US in a matter of weeks. So,
and is there any limit on the E-1 visa?
So I got it for 5 years, and then you need to renew it as long as the company needs to meet, special.
And for Israelis compared, I think it's 24 months or 25 months for the E-2 visa. So if you go with either option, a lot of our clients, they could go the E-2 because they made an investment in the U.S. or they do trade with their home country or the country that they have the passport for. So that's good to know. And one requirement for the E-1 visa is substantial trade. So how did that go? How much did you have to document? I always hear about $20,000 of trade between the two countries, but
basically, again, and it's not just us. A lot of startups that start outside of the U.S. building an R&D center, starting the business somewhere else, they need to open a U.S. entity for sales, for operation. And then basically you do intercompany agreements without related to any visa. That's just how you operate.
Yeah.
So then you sell the technology from your company overseas to the company in the U.S. that use the platform to do whatever you do in the U.S. And then there's an intercompany agreements. I think we closed around 30 loans when we did. So we paid for every loan that we closed. We paid something for the platform that allows us to do that. And I don't think it was, probably a few thousand, $20,000, $30,000. It wasn't, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. And I know for the E-1 visa too, one of the, it shouldn't just be like a one-off transaction. It should be, repeatable, multiple transactions. So for your business model, it seems ideal where there was 30 loans.
Exactly.
It has a dollar amount fixed each one.
Yeah, because you pay for the service that you give and the platform that you're using for every transaction, because we're a transactional business. But even if you're a SaaS, so every client, you pay some fee. If you know what you want to get at the end, you can build the business in a way that will enable you to do the E-1. For us, again, the process was super fast and super easy. You just need to make sure that you meet all the guidelines. But I think it's very underused today, because every time I go to immigration and they look at my passport and say, E-1, what are you guys doing? I say, I'm doing, we have a company, we finance foreign nationals buying real estate in the US. And it looks like immigration officers don't really see the E1 so often. So, because every time they're...
Oh yeah, E2 is much more popular. I think it's wildly underutilized. And, if you're already doing business with the United States, it's definitely at least a category to look at. And some of the benefits, as opposed to like the O1 visas, the spouse can work, and
exactly,
it's for a longer tenor. So there's a lot of positives with
and you
the
could bring
E1 category.
more employees from overseas.
And bring more easier process than the E2.
Exactly.
E2, you can bring over managers or essential employees, but a little tighter scrutiny than bringing over someone with
sales
E1.
people that we wanted to move here, everything that we needed, as long as they have, in this case, Israeli passport, we can move them over here.
That sounds like a great planning, like HR planning, because you can just incentivize people at the local office in Israel. Hey, you want to move to Miami?
In our case, it's Miami. Yeah, not all companies build their U.S. headquarters.
Come to Aventura, amazing place, top public schools.
I highly recommend Miami and Aventura specifically. But a lot of companies go to New York, California, but it's the same. The product works.